Laura, another one of the cooler characters introduced in Street Fighter V that's also missing from Street Fighter VI. She's also the abusive older sister of Sean. Poor guy. But today I have a redesign for her, so let's see what I got. Okay, so I got requested to do a redesign for Laura from Street Fighter. In a game that has some pretty revealing female character designs, and granted, Laura's design is not really that revealing, at least in comparison to some other characters, like Cammy, for example. Laura's not that exposed, while somehow simultaneously being one of the most overly sexualized characters in Street Fighter history. So much so that supposedly Capcom Brazil had a lot of issues with Laura as a character design. But Laura was a pretty interesting character. Had a decent enough moveset. It looked cool. She was eye candy. To me, she was like a perfect new addition to the Street Fighter roster. And also, they kept a lot of differences between her and Sean, like at least she's not shooting ABA balls at people. But this was still a pretty interesting design request for Laura, giving her an almost Street Fighter VI design. Pretty much because it gives me a pass to do just about whatever I want with the character, within reason of course. Most of the Street Fighter VI designs, with the exception of a couple characters, are actual street fighting looking designs, if that makes any sense. Like, these characters actually look like they get into street fights this time around. They don't look like martial arts masters getting ready for a tournament. They look like people that are getting ready to get in a brawl in an alley. And the game itself sort of reflects that. I love the designs of Street Fighter VI. That being said, it leaves Laura wide open for how I can design her. And with that being said, let's see what I got.
Laura?
Hi! Were you guys talking about me?
Alright, so I started off with the base pose for Laura. In the beginning, I wanted to make sure that I got Laura's facial features, at least from Street Fighter VI, down pat when I did her base sketch design. My style's never necessarily going to look like Street Fighter's artwork, but I at least want to make sure that the features and overall integrity of the characters look right, so I tried to make sure that facial structure and stuff like that was sort of down packed in the very beginning. Then I just made up a pose for Laura on the fly, because I didn't want her just standing straight arms by her side. I felt like she needed a slightly different pose. Just because it's Laura, she's kind of a wild character, to be quite honest with you. And then it was fixing base anatomy issues down in her lower half, because I needed her to look thick. It is Laura after all, while not making her look insane at the same time. Then from there, it was actually doing her design itself. So I knew I was going to play around with her hair. I wanted a similar hairstyle to the one she had in Street Fighter V, just changed it up slightly. I didn't give her as many braids. She sort of has a shaved head look on one side of her head. It was for that reason that I gave her a hat. I took a look at a lot of Brazilian fashion coming up with this design as well. I saw a few images with that hat and thought it'd be cool if I gave that to Laura as a part of her design, especially considering how her hair looks pretty unique to begin with. Or not unique, because a lot of girls are rocking this hairstyle nowadays, but you know what I mean. Then I decided to give her sort of tights that stop somewhere slightly past the calf. Didn't really want to go too crazy with Laura's design. As I've said numerous times on this channel, the simpler I keep Street Fighter designs, the better they look. Most of her details I felt was going to be done in the coloring phase anyways, so getting all that in, I just added a slight towel almost coming in from the back of Laura's pants. Once again, just to give a slight little accessory and then move on from there. And that's when I began doing my line art, going back over top of the sketching that I did and sort of cleaning up the lines to make sure that they are nice strong lines, and I can get a little more detail going forward for stuff like her eyebrows and eyelashes and stuff like that, and get a feel for how Laura's going to look throughout the rest of this design. While I didn't want to go too crazy in overly sexualizing her look, there are a few things that I still wanted to keep intact. Not just her hairstyle, but also her shape was one thing I didn't want to change but so much. And I also wanted to keep for whatever reason, the thong look that apparently pissed off Capcom Brazil quite a bit. I've actually read up a lot on, I had no idea that they were kind of against Laura's initial Street Fighter V design. That's kind of crazy to me, but apparently they weren't a fan of the thong sort of showing out her pants. So of course I brought it back. Not that I'm trying to anger anybody, but I just think that's, I don't know, it's cool for Laura's design personally. But finishing in on the line art, it was on to starting the coloring. Before I continue, just like to let everybody know, if you like the channel and want to see more redesigns and other art content that I have up here, go ahead and leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and make sure to hit the notification bell so you know whenever I do new uploads or have any other posts and stuff going on. Be greatly appreciated. Now getting to the coloring of Laura. So I colored the towel sort of the same colors of the Brazilian flag. For the most part, I kept the sort of green and yellow Brazil colors in her design. I didn't want to stray but so much from that, but I didn't want to outright make her look like she's a walking flag either. So rather than have so much green this time around, I sort of used my base color for her this time being yellow. That's also kind of the reason why I made her pants blue, by the way, just to change it up a little bit. I almost made it black, but I felt like the black, yellow, and green design will almost read too close to her original one. Even if it was slight, I did kind of want Laura to look a little different this time around. Otherwise, why am I even doing the redesign? But I did that, made the shoes and the hat black. Also making sure that the hat didn't get lost in her hair, because I did give her jet black hair, and also made the hat black as well. So making sure it still remained visible. And then gave her a design on her shirt. I almost gave her another Bonita shirt like she has in Street Fighter V. Just thought against it. Once again, trying not to just blatantly rip off the Street Fighter V designs. And her mini alternates, by the way. And I also added a stripe down on the side of her pants as well, just figuring that it seemed like it needed something else. Not too much, but just something else to sort of make it stand out a little bit more. And then from there, I went ahead and started doing the shadows on the design. The heart of doing her shadows was pretty much spent on like her thighs and knees. Not that I'm sitting over here being a freak doing this design, but because of how thick she is and the actual posing that I gave her legs, it was kind of complicated in how I needed her shading being done on her legs without making them seem like they looked like they were broken. So I had to make sure that I at least got that look down pat, because my initial shading when I started doing her legs did not look right. So yeah, way more time on her lower body than I actually thought I was going to. Should have known better, to be quite honest. Then from there, once I actually got the legs done, the rest of the shading was actually pretty easy, because after the way I shaded her legs, sort of finding a light source became very simple. So shading underneath her arms and her hands, sort of where the gloves are, which by the way, I don't know why I like the simple yellow glove so much, but I do. And then doing the shading on like the towel and down her legs and the shoes helped the design out quite a bit. Also doing the shading on the inside of the hair. I don't know why I'm such a fan of this hairstyle on her for some reason, but it just makes for an interesting design to sort of color and shade. And then after that, it was on to the highlights, which most of the highlights that was going to show up in this design anyways was going to be in her skin. So doing the highlights on her abs, certain parts of her arms and legs. And then I had to go back and do like secondary shading on her pants as well as on her hair, like the braids and whatnot on her hair. The shirt I didn't necessarily want to go too crazy on doing highlights for, to be quite honest with you, leaving that sort of subtle. And then after that, I went back and did the specular highlights on her design, and she was pretty much finished. And I had this Street Fighter 6 Laura. I can almost already guarantee that a big problem that some people might have with this design will probably be the hat. Don't really care, I like it for the design. Also, I don't know what it is about the hat that sort of makes her look upbeat and friendly. For as violent as she is, Laura really is a sort of happy character. Even if they did make her kind of goofy in the story mode of Street Fighter 6, but that's an entirely different conversation. Let me know what you guys think of the actual design itself and how you feel about Laura as a character and this particular Street Fighter 6 design that I gave her. And as I said before, like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And you all have a good one, and I'm out.
Select and make it first pick. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Choose and pick the best one. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Select and make it